Have you ever felt like a solitary traveler walking through a crowded, neon-lit metropolis, surrounded by millions of voices, yet completely, utterly alone? For the INFJ personality type, this is not just a passing feeling. It is the defining reality of their daily existence. They move through life with a hyper-tuned radar, effortlessly sensing the hidden emotions of the people around them, reading the invisible spaces between the words spoken, and carrying a vast, echoing inner world that few are ever invited to see. They pour their hearts into understanding others, offering profound empathy to a world that often does not know how to return the favor. They seek a connection that transcends the superficial, a bond that anchors the soul. But finding someone who can match their emotional depth, their far-reaching vision, and their intense self-awareness feels like searching for a single, specific drop of water in the middle of a vast ocean. Therefore, when an INFJ finally crosses paths with their true equal, the collision of their worlds is nothing short of transcendent. It is not merely a spark of chemistry. It is a profound paradigm shift. It feels terrifyingly rare, exquisitely balanced, and deeply, anciently familiar. It is like finally hearing your native language spoken in a foreign land. We must first understand what meeting an equal truly means for this rare personality. It does not mean finding an exact replica of themselves. Rather, it means encountering a soul that vibrates on the exact same frequency. It is discovering a person who matches their energetic depth, a spirit who moves through the turbulent waters of life with the same deliberate intention, hyper-awareness, and unwavering reverence for the truth. For the INFJ, navigating relationships usually requires a translation process. They are constantly adapting, softening their intensity, and explaining the elaborate architecture of their thoughts so that others are not overwhelmed. But with an equal, the burden of translation simply evaporates. They no longer have to explain why a passing comment broke their heart, or why a beautiful sunset brought them to the brink of tears. This deep, unspoken resonance mirrors the profound Korean cultural concept of jong, an invisible, magnetic thread of affection, loyalty, and deep emotional solidarity that binds two souls together without the need for a single spoken word. When this invisible thread is pulled, the INFJ experiences an overwhelming wave of both thrilling excitement and profound calm. The heavy armor they have worn since childhood, built to protect their hypersensitive heart, slowly begins to unbuckle. For the very first time in their life, they feel completely seen, stripped bare of all pretenses, yet entirely safe. This is not just an emotional milestone, it is a deeply spiritual homecoming. The first magnificent transformation that occurs is the manifestation of a flawless mirror for their inner world. For the vast majority of their lives, INFJs are burdened by a lingering sense of being an outsider. They observe the people around them with a piercing clarity, understanding the traumas, hopes, and hidden fears of their friends and family. Yet, when they look back to see if anyone is observing them with that same careful tenderness, the seats are usually empty. They spend decades painstakingly trying to articulate their complex inner landscape, only to be met with blank stares or polite nods. But when destiny brings them face to face with their equal, the narrative changes in a heartbeat. This person becomes a pristine mirror, reflecting their most complicated thoughts, nuanced emotions, and fiercely held values back to them through every action and spoken word. There is a spontaneous, mutual recognition that feels akin to two survivors finding each other after a long, arduous war. This mirroring effect bestows upon the INFJ a desperately craved sense of belonging. They suddenly realize a profound truth. They were never too deep, they were never too sensitive, and they were never too complicated. They had simply spent their lives surrounded by people who did not have the lungs to breathe at their altitude. With their equal, they are finally understood with absolute, unconditional grace. The second profound phenomenon is the symphony of silent understanding. If you observe the life of an INFJ, you will notice the sheer amount of energy they expend trying to justify their existence. They carefully curate their vocabulary, tiptoeing around conversations, praying that the other person will grasp the pure intentions of their heart. When the equal arrives, this exhausting mental gymnastics comes to a sudden, peaceful halt. Communication transforms into an effortless, flowing river. They discover the miraculous ability to transmit entire philosophies and emotional states through absolute silence. Their equal just gets it, not because they made a lucky guess, but because they feel the exact same vibration in their own chest. This level of silent comprehension is reminiscent of the unspoken love found in traditional families, where a mother might never say the words "I love you," but instead places a warm, steaming bowl of rice and soup in front of you after a grueling day. That silent bowl of soup contains 1,000 words of devotion. The equal provides that same profound, wordless comfort. They can sit together in a quiet room, completely absorbed in their own thoughts, yet remain intimately connected. A simple glance across a crowded room or a small, subtle shift in posture holds the weight of a 3-hour conversation. For an intuitive soul, this almost telepathic bond is the ultimate sanctuary. It builds an unshakable foundation of trust, proving that silence does not equal distance, it equals harmony. The third remarkable occurrence is the co-creation of a monumental vision and a shared purpose. When an INFJ unites with their true equal, the energy between them refuses to remain contained within the boundaries of a simple romance or friendship. It naturally spills over, expanding into a grand, shared horizon. INFJs are relentlessly driven by a sense of divine purpose. They carry a burning desire to leave the world slightly better than they found it, to alleviate suffering, and to orchestrate meaningful change. For so long, they feel like solitary architects trying to build a cathedral with their bare hands. But when they meet a partner who shares this exact visionary drive, a monumental spark is ignited. Together, they elevate their dreams to a celestial level. Their late-night conversations drift away from mundane daily complaints and soar into the realms of philosophy, global impact, and profound truths. They challenge the limitations of each other's minds, not to compete, but to forge sharper, stronger versions of themselves. This shared trajectory mirrors the collective resilience of a people who, after facing unimaginable historical devastation and literal ashes, banded together to rebuild an entire nation, creating an economic and cultural miracle through sheer willpower and shared sacrifice. When two INFJs align their compasses, they become a formidable force. They are no longer wandering alone. They are marching side by side, armed with a moral and spiritual clarity that makes them feel entirely unstoppable. The fourth critical shift is the establishment of radical emotional safety and authentic vulnerability. For the deeply empathetic INFJ, emotional safety is the rarest commodity on earth. Over the years, they learn to guard their soft hearts with towering fortress walls. They do this because they have intimately experienced how carelessly the world can handle a fragile, giving spirit. They will gladly absorb the pain of a stranger, offering boundless comfort, yet they will lock their own suffering away in a dark, hidden vault. When the equal enters their life, the heavy iron gates of that vault slowly begin to creak open. It is not a sudden, reckless unmasking, but a gentle thawing process, much like the slow arrival of spring after a brutally harsh winter. The equal constructs a sacred, non-judgmental sanctuary for the INFJ to simply exist. Within this sanctuary, the INFJ discovers that they can present their deepest fears, their most irrational anxieties, and their lingering traumas without the terror of abandonment. Their immense emotional depth is no longer treated as a burden. It is welcomed as a precious gift. The equal sits with them in the darkness, refusing to offer cheap solutions or minimize their pain. This radical safety initiates a profound healing process. The scars left by those who previously misunderstood them begin to fade. They learn that true connection does not require emotional armor. It only requires a willing, tender heart. The fifth beautiful evolution is the experience of growth without the suffocating weight of pressure. The modern world is obsessed with relentless optimization. Society demands constant improvement, pushing individuals to the brink of burnout with extreme academic and professional expectations. INFJs, who are already naturally inclined toward intense self-reflection and growth, often find themselves crushed by this external pressure in relationships. They are frequently cast in the role of the teacher, the healer, or the endlessly accommodating partner, which eventually drains their life force. However, in the presence of their equal, the paradigm of growth is completely rewritten. Evolution happens organically, with the gentle, unforced grace of a flower opening its petals to the morning sun. They inspire one another to reach higher, not through nagging criticism or fear of inadequacy, but through profound mutual understanding. The equal looks at the INFJ and says, "I love exactly who you are today, and I will support whoever you choose to become tomorrow." This delicate balance of radical acceptance and gentle encouragement is incredibly liberating. They do not weaponize each other's flaws. Instead, they use their intuitive insight to gently elevate one another. They walk the long, winding path of life at a synchronized pace, allowing each other the freedom to stumble, to pause, and to grow at the exact speed their soul dictates. It is a quiet, steady, and infinitely powerful evolution. The sixth and perhaps most awe-inspiring phenomenon is the shared gravitational pull towards a magnificent, transcendent destiny. When an INFJ finally unites with their true equal, the relationship transcends the boundaries of ordinary romance or friendship. It evolves into a spiritual mission. Both individuals are struck by an undeniable conviction that their meeting was not a random roll of the cosmic dice. It feels intricately orchestrated by the universe, as if a benevolent force guided them through years of isolation, specifically to bring them together for a monumental purpose. INFJs are natural visionaries. They are always looking over the horizon, searching for ways to weave light into the dark corners of society. When their energy merges with a like-minded soul, their creative and spiritual power is magnified exponentially. Their bond becomes a living, breathing entity that generates brilliant ideas, radical compassion, and decisive action. They build a life that serves as a beacon of hope for their community, creating a legacy that will outlast their physical existence. It is deeply reminiscent of the ancient belief in the red thread of fate, a belief that those destined to meet are connected by an invisible thread, regardless of time, place, or circumstance. The thread may stretch or tangle, but it will never break. When these two souls finally align, they push each other to act with extraordinary bravery, to dream with reckless abandon, and to trust the quiet, persistent voice of their intuition. They are not merely finding comfort in one another. They are expanding the universe together.